Heidi, hi there, friends and neighbors. Um, Pop up the. Oh, right when I was about to start, I've got an issue. We're going to start shortly. Sorry. Back to this. Give me a second. Okay, we're back. Not sure the problem's been addressed. I'm going to find out shortly, but at least begin because I don't have a lot of time. Going to be going shortly to dinner with the family. So, I'm wearing an Angel shirt to start, and I hate the Angels. Those of you who know me, this is sort of my way to jinx the whole process. Not sure the problem's been addressed. Sorry, hold on. Shortly, but at least okay, I had it open somewhere. So, why I'm wearing this is because I was all Dodger garbed up last year when they played the Cubs and they lost. So I figure if I pretend to the baseball gods that I not much of a Dodger fan, that when the Dodgers lose in 4 to Chicago in the championship series, again, just I'll become an Angel fan. Not really, but that's the vibe I'm going for. I think if I change things up, that the Dodgers this time might get us a victory. So, had a couple viewers, and there are a few in here now. You can feel free to call the number below. We can talk about anything. We can talk about politics and religion, music, some of the stuff I recently posted on my Facebook page. We could talk about law. We talk about a lot of different things. We could talk about online cults like a mighty wind. So one of the things I wanted to do was in this mailbag here, I wanted to look up in my mailbag. But first I want to see if I can get a hold of this particular individual who sent me a message on one of my videos. And it was a video on a Mighty Wind reveal. The Mighty Wind, if you don't know, is a cult that I got involved with because I was helping a pastor who was being sued by this particular group, really with no major basis. What they were suing for and about was for an activity that they were doing as well. There was this cyber squatting thing going back and forth, people registering domain names in the name of somebody, and it was just really super silly. And I helped this pastor, didn't charge him, and this group immediately considered me enemy number 2. So when I became enemy number 2, they did a 55-minute video on me that allegedly proves that I'm a vampire. And the other reason it's kind of unfair for me to invite this person is this particular cult is a Hebrew roots group, and therefore, assuming that they're not on the West Coast, and even if they were, it's 5:16 at night, they're Sabbath keepers. So it's now the Sabbath, and they would probably not partake and participate in anything online because of the Sabbath. So the fact that none of them will probably show up to respond is completely understandable. So let me see if I can cut to the comment. Now, let's move this here. You may not be able to see that well here, and I need to take down, I think, the open chat call there with the phone number. So if we read it, if you're having trouble, I'll read it for you. This is on a video that I did where I said, "Happy birthday, Dad Ezra," who Ezra is a new male leadership of this particular cult, after there were prophecies that said that the male figure who led them before was God ordained and was the woman leader's husband and soulmate. And it turned out that Nicomeah was not. That in fact they split up. And it was, no one likes to see anybody split up, but as far as this particular group goes, they're false. The leader is a false prophet. She makes up stuff. She believes the Holy Spirit's a woman, a lot of female, I should say, a lot of things. They believe that flying saucers are going to come and fake a false rapture. Sorry, let me see if I can get back there. So they're going to fake a false rapture, and they're going to have a blue beam in the air, and there's a lot of craziness involved. They believe that I'm a vampire. They believe that vampires are real. They believe werewolves are real. And so there are a lot of these issues. So on this particular video, I just simply asked about the male leadership. No one was responding to me about the change and essentially how that proves that their leader's a false prophet and is not speaking for or with God, because their God, who allegedly gave her this revelation, said she'd be with Nicomeah forever. He's a soulmate. His name wasn't even Nicomeah, but they changed his name. And then all of a sudden they split up, and there's this new guy, Ezra, whose real name allegedly is Caleb. And I guess the mighty wind God said that it's now Ezra. And I addressed the video to Ezra, and I said, "Was somebody talk to me? And does that mean that the Nicomeah prophecy is not true?" And that was the sum and substance of this video. I just was asking for people to make comments and tell me what they felt on it. And the response to this was from Servant of Yah. I saw this yesterday from 1 week ago. For me, directed at me: "You are reprobate pig. You are cursed. You are going to hell. Yahuwah God's judgment is upon you. You tell lies. You are a liar. You tell lies about Holy a Mighty Wind Ministry and Prophet Mom Elisheva." She used to be called Elizabeth. She recently changed her name at Ezra's insistence. "And Dad Ezra, you go to the lake of fire." Needless to say, Grace is not really a Mighty Wind's middle name. So I wanted to talk to Servant of Yah. And what I responded, as you probably saw there, is I just said, well, what about the Nicomeah prophecy, which is what I asked about in the first place. Wasn't really mentioning any lies or anything like that. I was just wishing Ezra a happy birthday. This was the beginning of the year. And hoping that somebody could tell me and address the actual problem and issue, the new one that I had had with a Mighty Wind, that their prophecy was obviously false here. So what's the deal? And no one has said anything. And that's been like 9 months. And that was the first response and only response I got from a member of Mighty Wind, that I'm a pig and I'm due for hellfire. So let's pop up the, oh, it's still up, open chat. You can call and we can talk about anything. 818-527-4955. That is a Skype number. My Skype is ready. Hopefully will not be too loud if somebody does call in. And if nobody calls in, then I just wanted to share my mailbag. And that's it. If you have not supported my music ministry, I'm worship leader at Lifehouse Church. Jesus is Lord. You should know. You can check out robreed.com. And if you're a member of Apple Music or a member of Spotify, Pandora Premium, my music is on there. And every time you listen, I get like at least a penny. They've increased the price. That's something we could talk about too, which is kind of cool that they increased what they pay, which is interesting. In a lot of cases with Google Music, and I've noticed it with Spotify, they're almost paying a penny a full play now. That's kind of a cool deal. It used to be like fractions of a penny, such that it would take about 100 plays to even make a penny. And now it's almost like a penny a play. So if you listen to my music, there's some non-religious based music on some of my stuff, like Dreams I Didn't Even Know I Had. I wrote Shadow on the Sun for Marie, my wife. I wrote, I think He's My Son is on that one. He's My Son was for AJ. Wild and Free is kind of the thought process was sinning, but it could be considered secular. Not great lyrics necessarily in that, nothing deep there. It was just the journey. The album's kind of a journey where it talks about like a sinful life and then repentance and then joy and comfort in a life of God. It's a crude version of a Who album, perhaps. I don't know, without the talent, you might argue. Nonetheless, so I don't know if there's anybody in the chat room right now. There are 2 viewers. Hello to the 2 viewers that are there. You can't. I didn't put up a link to the Hangout, but I don't think I've gotten any messages in that regard. So I'm going to go to the YouTube channel and see if anybody is actually leaving messages on there, which is a possibility, and I forgot to do that. The only thing is, it's not letting me do that. What if I want to set up a new window? YouTube. Do I have to use Internet Explorer? I think I may have to use Internet Explorer, unfortunately. Not a fan. So where was I? There are now 3 viewers, it says. And I'm going to go to, like I said, my YouTube channel. See if anybody's in the chat room, and I will say hi. It is a possibility, I suppose. And hopefully the volume is down, or we're going to have conflict with the volume. Come on. Slow. Oh, here we go. I've got a Meligris Felice. Hello, Rob. I've advertised your Hangout on my Google Plus, so maybe some people will watch. That was really nice. I appreciate it. I won't be here very long. Anthony Michael is, I don't know Anthony, but hi, Anthony. Let's see what he said. He said, are the California wildfires as bad as the media says it is? Well, I closed the blinds out there. If you were to look, it's really hazy. Where I am, I'm in the San Fernando Valley, Los Angeles area. This particular area is called Sherman Oaks. And so I'm far away from the Orange County fires. They're pretty darn bad, though. If we're getting the smoke here, and I'd say it's about 60 miles away, there's a lot of terrible stuff going on. We're just getting the remnants of the air quality and air problems. So let me make sure that the guy got in. The guy that was the problem that we had right at the very start. which is another thing I could tell you about if you were interested. If you live in California, I have a cabin in Big Bear, and we rent it out. And somebody's trying to get in right now, and they were not able to. So we'll see what happens. BigBearLoveNest.com is that the website for the cabin. So anyway, here we are. Go back to you. You said so. The California wildfires are bad. We're not experiencing it here in LA that much, other than remnant. Then you said your screen sharing quality is horrible, but your audio quality is great. That's good. The screen sharing quality is just what I get through Manycam, and I think it might be a little bit better if I did it through the Google Hangout, so maybe I'll do that next. But I told you, oh, he got in. So we're good to go. Now I can just keep talking with you. I think Anthony Michael was responding to me about the cult that I was talking about. And he said, this is why I don't go to church. Too many false prophets and evil swindlers. Most Christians are criminals who use Christianity to make excuses for their past crimes. Well, I think you're making a hasty generalization. I see with what I have that I'm not able to, I'm getting a spinning circle of death on my Hangout. So hopefully you're still able to talk with me. There's still 3 people in here. But I think to say something like most atheists, if I came out and said most atheists are criminals who use their atheism to make excuses for their sinful lives, you know, they obviously wouldn't agree with that. And I think I would be making a hasty generalization of an entire group. Most Christians I know that I hang out with at church, because I go to church every week, are pretty cool. Okay, you're still here. Thanks. I had to reboot and go on a different wireless access, and I think this will be a little bit better. I was on a public one. But thank you for the two that have stuck around. I'll need to go back to the page that I was on. Hopefully I can find it when this all happened, where I was answering questions. But we ended with somebody talking about how most Christians were criminals, and my disagreement with that. A Christian is, from a human living on earth, fellow brother, citizen in life standpoint, is exactly the same as everybody else. We are all sinners saved by grace. That's the difference. The free gift of salvation is available for all through Jesus if you just believe. So, yeah. Meligris, thank you again. I'm probably saying that wrong, for advertising the Hangout. You lived in Burbank for years. We live in the North Valley, which is not far from Burbank. We can go to Burbank. We've had some, I was just talking about Burbank about 20 minutes ago because we're going to dinner tonight, and we have a free coupon because we're getting some landscaping, and we're paying a heck of a lot of money for landscaping, and they gave us a little $75 coupon that we could use, and you'll know this being as you lived in Burbank for years, to the Smokehouse, which is the well-known, or the Castaway, both of which are located in Burbank, beautiful Burbank. So we will be going there. We're not going there tonight, although it was a part of the discussion. Trying to go back to the comments that were there before. Christians being criminals. I dealt with that issue, not really criminals, but today on my Facebook, there's a local church, and it's a big church, and I didn't say on my Facebook who it was, but it's real easy. If you know it's a big church in the valley, you're familiar with the San Fernando Valley at all, at least the North San Fernando Valley. It is the biggest church in the valley, probably. Maybe the second business. It's definitely getting there. They just had a rebuilding and stuff, and so they're having a Doug McClure. I talked about what was with the angel shirt, and I'll tell you in a sec. Basically, the short version, Doug, is that I'm jinxing what happened. I'm usually in my gear. I hate the Angels. The only reason I own this shirt is because I coached a Little League team a few years ago that was the Angels, so I bought this. And as much as it makes me want to melt, I wore it this morning to kind of have fun with the folks in the office here, saying that when the Dodgers get swept by the Cubs in the National League Championship Series, I am now an Angels fan. It's not true. I think that if I change, I have just bad luck as it relates to cheering on my team, wearing the gear, and having my teams win. So if I maybe I'll wear Angel gear through the whole playoff, but we'll see what happens. Tomorrow night is the first game. I might go to a wings joint with my brother, maybe my family. And Doug, you're invited if you feel like hanging out in the. Doug thinks it's going to be the Dodgers versus Astros. Well, that's your opinion. Here's how we're safe. I know you won't wear any Dodger gear. Doug is a Giants fan, so I'm safe in that regard. You're not going to help jinx it. Okay, how do you get the house key back into the lockbox? It's a puzzle. I'll say, don't worry about the house key. Sorry. You need that. Oh, now I'm boring. All right, so that's the reason for the Angels garb. Anyway, back to what happened here was I usually pipe into the work Wi-Fi that they have, and sometimes don't tell the powers that be next door. Sometimes I pipe into theirs. They have an easy password that I guessed, and so I'll jump in that. And I think I was stuck on that because this wasn't working, so I reset this one. So yeah, Doug agreed indeed. I think I was talking about my Facebook, the church. Yeah, back to the church. So there's a church that is very well known, very big, and in California we had Prop 8. Prop 8. It was interesting because it was sponsored by a pro-gay faction, and it was almost trickery. You know, politics is such trickery that if you were against, wait, how did it work? So if you were against gay marriage, you would have to vote no. And I think there was a part of it that was a little bit of trickery because people would think like, this is the gay marriage initiative. And I just felt that there was a little bit of a switch there that could possibly get religious people who anti-gay to vote yes, because they felt like the yes vote would mean that homosexual marriage, that is, would remain illegal if they voted yes. So anyway, this particular church put these signs, and this was, I don't know, 5 years ago, I think. Doug can tell me. 5 years ago, Prop 8, no on Prop 8, all the way over their church. And I thought that you might as well put up outside of a church, no fags allowed, really, pardon the expression, but that's really what it seemed to me to be, because there are plenty of others. How about, you know, no divorcees who divorced for any other reason other than marital infidelity, which is an equal sin to homosexuality. Or we don't want people that eat pork. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could put out there that the Bible talks about. And so I felt anything you do politically in a church that alienates a group of people who might want to drop by, there's no way that they'll go in. And I know a number of young people that got very turned off by that. So it was extremely annoying to me when they did that. Now, why do I mention that? Well, it turns out that there's a music artist, there's a retreat that's happening at that church starting this weekend, I believe, through midweek. And the guy that's leading worship there is just last year was discovered it was revealed, not by him until it was revealed, and he confessed to having an affair with someone, and not just an affair, but 2 children in that affair outside of marriage, love children, or bastards, as some people might say, right? Which is obviously not what a worship leader should do. And that worship leader at the time when this all came out was seeing a new person who happened to be on the same worship team that he was on, and the church they were playing at kicked them off. And this was all within the last year. And so the reason that this particular church I'm talking about put out those signs was under the notion of preserving the biblical definition of marriage. And I would say adultery is not so good, and yet they have this guy who in recent news had all this stuff came out. He is the big headliner because he's very famous. I don't want to say his name. You could figure it out if you go to the church. But I like him, and there's a song. In fact, Doug, you would love this guy because he's very funky. Extremely funky, like really, really good. James Brown style funky. Not his voice necessarily, but the total vibe of his music. It's very gospel, and it's awesome. And we do a very poor version of one of his famous songs at my church. But, you know, we do our best. And I still will play that song, notwithstanding everything that he's done. It doesn't matter. Everything could be done for God's glory as we look at it. And he's as much a sinner as I am. Again, if I'm consistent, if I think those signs are wrong, then I think judging this particular worship leader is wrong too. Whether he should be leading worship somewhere, I don't know, before he gets himself right. But he's remarried, and hopefully he has gotten himself right. Let's assume that, and I would assume maybe the pastors figured that all out. I just think as a symbol of something, if you're a church who is prepared to put signs saying, we want you to vote homosexual marriage, I think that as symbolically just a year removed from finding out all of this information, I think it might be closer to, it is a year and a half. I don't know if 6 months makes a year, you know, worse or better. I think it's just hypocritical. And it's the reason why somebody like Anthony Michael in here, who was in here, who said that, again, the quote is, most Christians are criminals who use Christianity to make excuses for their past crimes. I just have to disagree, but we're definitely hypocrites. I will give you that. So if you'd like to pop in, I won't be here much longer. My wife, I'm going to have dinner with, has not contacted me yet, and hopefully she will soon. I'm not sure. We just aren't going to Burbank. That's all. So what's in the news today? I don't know. Doug, you have something that you want to talk about? Doug's shy today. He's not calling me. And that isn't a dare. You don't have to call him. Maybe you're on the road. If you're on your cell phone, Doug, obviously I wouldn't want you to do anything like that. But this is something I'll try and do occasionally when I have some free time and everyone's out of the office and I'm not bothering them and they got out exactly at 5. I'm going to leave very, very shortly. If somebody dropped in to want to chat, I would most definitely entertain that. The phone call would be easier. I think that it still appears somebody's calling. Let's see who that is. No filters here. This is Rob Reed. You're on the line here. How are you?
Yes. Do you believe the Earth is flat?
Do I believe the Earth is flat? No, I do not believe the Earth is flat. Do you, sir?
It says it's a footstool.
What's that?
Is a footstool flat?
A footstool is flat. There is a Bible verse that talks about a footstool, but I think that is being spoken of metaphorically as opposed to actual footstool. Is this my friend Rand Campbell?
So he got a cherry picker.
I just pick small parts of the Bible and take out the ones I don't like.
So you believe in a wet spinning ball globe? Rocket?
A wet rocket spinning around the sun. Yeah, I believe in that. I think that science makes it pretty clear, and science hasn't created anything per se. Science is simply it means the root is knowledge, right? And so it's our perception of how things work. And I think there's very good evidence that we are a floating ball rocket in space that is orbiting the sun. Yes. Which you may believe.
You're being unreasonable. We would fly off that rocket. You ever spun a glass of water around?
Yeah, I think that because it's so your concept of a ball, if you put on a small ball like a tennis ball, water, yeah, I don't think it would hold. But when you're real big, I mean, by like supersize, potentially, yeah, it'd be billions of times bigger than the small ball that we could hold in our hand. And then you add in the fact the gravitational force, which isn't a small thing. If a tennis ball had a gravitational force, I submit, let's say if a tennis ball was a magnet for water, in essence, the water would stick.
So now the world is a magnet for water?
Yeah, I'm trying to make an illustration. I wouldn't say that's a scientific term, so don't put that in any science books. But I think that yeah, gravity acts as if it's like a magnet for everything, really. Wouldn't you say the reason that you are able to walk instead of lightly float on the earth is because of gravity?
Sir, with all due respect, it sounds like you're regurgitating stuff from Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, well, I would say your attempts at imitating Rand Campbell failed right there, sir, because you said, I beg to differ. What did you say? I respectfully, I think you used the word respect, and I'm not sure that would have come out of the real Rand Campbell's mouth. But I appreciate the phone call. Do you have something? We can agree to disagree. How's that? And you can think
Amen.
and you can believe I'm a.
We're over to your side to tell you the truth. I think what you said made a lot of sense. So I think I'm gonna consider it.
All right. Well, that's good. That's a good thing. But there are a lot of people that believe in different things. I would just say try not to be so suspicious. It's amazing to me when a Christian is so easy to be suspicious of science, at the same time to be so less suspicious of a Bible claim that a donkey spoke and a snake spoke, and you know, all of these other things. Wouldn't you think?
Amen. Amen.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you having this open.
Thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Have
Bye.
a good night. Thank you.
Bye. I don't know who that was, but I would assume that it was a YouTuber who's very familiar with the YouTube debate of the flat Earth versus the wet ball rocket in space, as they say. And there isn't really much of a debate. I think that you have to have a complete mistrust of the government, and not only our government, but every government in the world who is trying to fly missiles, like North Korea, who has no interest in wanting to make our scientific claims legitimate unless they're true. You know, I think one of the things that Kim Jong-un could easily do is come out and say, our scientific technology doesn't involve the rotation of Earth at all. Our attempts to pinpoint a missile in the United States doesn't involve, and it's completely unnecessary to use pi or the idea of a circle or a spherical shape. We're able to just shoot it because it's a flat Earth, and we don't even have to think about all that stuff. We can just shoot it and use our crude little physics as if it was just a straight line. I think Kim Jong-un would have a great incentive to say, the devil US is lying, and I have my proof. Rand Campbell, you're correct. Come to North Korea and be my best friend. You know, I think that would be a perfectly reasonable thing. But there's so much suspicion of the government that there's, as if it's a big cover-up to deny the Bible claims that the four corners of the earth, the mention of that, as if it's a sheet, which was a vision by Peter, I think, and the footstool, as he mentioned, that when in the Psalms David refers to the earth being a footstool at the feet of God, that they actually think that God takes his actual foot, puts it on the earth to rest, I guess, maybe to have a beer. I'm sorry, I don't know if that was blasphemous. Would be to some people. That brings me to another show, which is kind of funny. That not funny, kind of sad, but I fortunately didn't turn into an argument. But our church. See, this is what a response to my thing with the local church here. My church next weekend, Lifehouse in Northridge, is having an Oktoberfest. And I mentioned that to somebody who wanted me to play some worship at this particular coffee shop. That's a Christian coffee shop, great one in Bellflower. I don't want to say what it is because I don't mean to talk badly about them. I'm not. It's just how there are disputes. And I said, they wanted me to play on this particular night. And I said, I can't play because my church is having Oktoberfest. Then he sort of jokingly said in comments like, yeah, you guys going to have beer there? And I was like, and I sort of knew that was going right away. And I simply said, because it's a celebration of Martin Luther, it's the 500th year of the pinning of the 90 whatever theses that he put on the door when he rebelled against Catholic Church in beginning the Protestant Reformation, the whole movement. It's a big deal. So it's the 500th anniversary of that. And Martin Luther used to write all the worship songs that they would play in his German church from bar hymns that he would hear. And I don't think he was going to bars just to listen to music. And maybe we could disagree, but I just simply responded to him. I said, Martin Luther was a bad influence. And then he said, you know, something to the effect that that didn't make any sense, that we were leading people to public drunkenness to get drunk. And, you know, there's something to be said about that. And it's like I said, when I condemn this church for doing something, as I was doing earlier in this little hangout, and they have that church would easily say, look what Rob Reed and Lifehouse is doing. They're drinking beer on the church grounds, not in the sanctuary, but we have a little, we call it Natterstad Hall right next door, where we're doing worship there right now. But it's more hall than it is like sacred holy ground. And then we go to the issue there of sacred holy ground. If you think about the definition of church, as I put you on mute and talk to my wife. Okay, still 4 viewers in here. Thank you for staying. You can still call. I have 8 minutes. I'm going to meet my wife and my son for eats. And tomorrow's a big day because we have a double header of soccer, which is the first time ever. I'm not really looking forward to it. 11 a.m. game and then a 3 p.m. game, which travel teams do all the time, but this is just standard AYSO. And in order to accommodate an odd number of teams, every team has to do 2 games in one day. I would prefer maybe to have an 8 o'clock and then 3, because 11, then we're done at 12, and then the kids have like 2.5 hours before they have to be back, and then we play again. They're going to be exhausted. My poor team. I'll talk about that. If you coach youth sports, my poor team. Last year I was blessed with a team of a ton of skill. My soccer team, I got the luck of the draw. I just about every player, I think every player of the 11 that I had, except 3 were pretty well skilled. So needless to say, we only lost 1 regular season game. It was against the best team. There was one team that was super. And I'll change the subject there. Let's see if we're getting a call. This is Robert Reed, and you have joined the Hangout.
Yeah, I want to ask you, you're teaching these young ones about Jesus the baby killer, so they don't go to church and work with their money.
Wait, say again. You're not coming in that well.
I was just saying, are you teaching the youth about Jesus the baby killer?
Do I think Jesus is a baby killer?
Yes.
No. Why do you think Jesus is a baby killer?
He's God. He's the giver and taker of life.
Yeah. But as you go out and kill babies on purpose, or is there some other sinister force at work?
Final judgment.
Well, it could be. I don't know what that means, final judgment. But I wouldn't call him a baby killer. I would say that through sin, death came about, and God allows death to occur. I would say that a baby is given an free eternal life pass. So upon a baby's death, they have life eternal with God anyway, which would be the best life anyway. So I think they're doing just fine.
All those babies he killed in the flood of Noah, all those babies are living eternally?
I would say so, yes.
You got to reread the Bible. You ever heard of annihilation?
Yeah, sure, but wouldn't you say the babies that could not be judged? Are you familiar with the Bible and talking about age of? No,
I know what you're talking about, but I'm talking about direct judgment. Once God kills somebody, that's it. He doesn't resurrect them anymore.
How do you know?
It's common knowledge.
Common knowledge that God. So you're speaking for God? Do you have a Bible quote of that?
I am.
Do you have a Bible quote?
I'm speaking for the.
All right, what is it?
For the Tower of Jehovah. He can't speak to you, so I'll speak for him.
All right, so what is the Bible verse?
Let me see. There's Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 4. The soul that is sinning shall die.
Say again.
Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 4.
All right, let's go to that. Ezekiel I wish you called earlier.
Oh, is this going to the show?
I gotta go pretty soon. Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 4. I was going until 6 o'clock because I had to meet my wife for dinner. All right.
Yeah.
Behold, all souls are mine as the soul of the Father. Are you still with me? Sorry, something popped up. Behold, all souls are mine as the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son is mine. The soul that sinneth, it shall die. Okay, so let's go back to the point that I was making regarding the babies. Why would you say that when the Bible talks about there being like an age of, like a limit on the age of when somebody would be held responsible for their sins? You see that it says the soul that sinneth, it shall die. The baby wouldn't apply there. Do you see why?
Yeah.
Okay. So now we've got that squared away. So what else you got?
No, I'm just saying, do you understand death is death?
Well, physical death is death, yeah. Then there's an afterlife, right? You're a believer in God?
Yes, I'm a Maltheist. I believe God is evil.
You're a what?
Maltheist.
All right, so you believe God is evil.
Yes, cruel.
On what basis do you make that? Who is good? Who is good?
He has a good side. He also has a good side.
He has a good side, but who is good? What is ultimate good?
Nobody.
Nothing at all?
Nothing.
So what measure do you use to determine God is evil?
My measurement.
So you're God, or you're the should my opinion of what evil is, the definition, I should base it upon what you believe.
Well, if you go to God and see what he believes is evil, he gets away with murder. So why would we follow a murderer?
Well, those rules are not rules that he applied for us. Those are, I mean, for him, those are rules that he applied for us, right? In other words, he made his creation. He can decide what he wants to do with his creation, and he can also decide how his creation should act with other members of his creation, right?
Yeah, but there's a way of ending lives.
Like if you write a story, let's say, and there's parts that you like and there's parts that you don't, would you be evil by throwing away the parts you don't like?
I have no idea, but I know he created some vessels for good and some vessels for bad.
Sure. I mean, but I would submit as a God believer and believing that God is ultimately good, that the reason we know when something is evil is because God has given us an exact moral standard that he's written upon our hearts, right? So we can say that murder, we just know in our internal being that is just wrong. We can say that rape is wrong. We can say that pedophilia is wrong. We can say stealing's wrong. We can say lying's wrong because he's written it upon our hearts. Because the moral absolute has been created by God and who he is as the ultimate arbiter of good, the ultimate truth. So without having an ultimate truth, we really can't determine what is evil, is the way I look at things. Like, it's proof of God is in the moral argument. And so what you're telling me to do to determine that God is evil is you're saying to rely on your definition. I don't know you very well.
No.
You sound like a nice guy, but I'm sorry, but I'm not going to use your definition as mine. I think that I'll go with God's.
Create your own definition. Don't follow a murderer.
He's not a murderer.
According to who? Him?
According to, yes. According to the fact that he says murder is wrong, right?
Have you ever read Proverbs chapter 16, verse 4?
Let's go there. I'm sure I have. I couldn't tell you what it is offhand.
Well, to get the real definition of it, you got to go to the Jehovah's Witness Bible to read the real meat of the definition.
All right. Well, that's a Bible that I don't believe in. But how is that different than what it says? The Lord works out everything to its proper end, even the wicked for a day of disaster. So what does the Jehovah's Witness version say?
Well, basically, he created evil for a purpose, to destroy it.
He created evil to destroy evil?
Yes.
That's interesting. I can't think that I disagree with that. I don't think that I think here's what happens when you, when you have something that's good. Sorry, I was saying when you have something that's absolute good, anything that would be different from that would be evil. In other words, the presence of evil exists only because we know of the presence of good. Trying to think of a good example so that doesn't sound as cryptic, but in essence, you could say that God created evil without creating it.
Yeah,
if you know what I'm saying.
You got me on that one. We
right?
only know it's evil because
It's the same. It's the same way to say like God created darkness because He created light, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, Isaiah chapter 45 verse 7 speaks a little bit about this.
Okay, we're bouncing around, trying to stay on certain.
Yeah. We're talking about good and evil, so I'll just let you with that last scripture.
Sure, as Isaiah 45:7. I form the light and create darkness. I bring prosperity and create disaster. I, the Lord, do all these things. I would say what he's saying here is he lets things happen. He's set everything in motion. He's created all things, right? And so in creating all things, we would have to say that hurricanes, which create disaster, which as we know in recent news created death, right? We'd have to say ultimately it came from God, right?
No, I don't blame them for the tornadoes and stuff.
Well, I mean, but that's a sample of what you're referencing of Isaiah 45:7. That's what it's talking about.
He used to create war against the enemies of the Jews.
Well, he doesn't create war. There needs to be people that do it, right? He might direct it, and the Bible indicates that he did direct it, right? But the hands and feet, the people that are working stuff are us, right? And our failures. And there is a possibility in the word when it's talking about, because remember that the word was written by man, there is the possibility that some of the men were trying to justify, because the Bible is a history book, the men that were writing it were trying to justify actions that were horrific. And they were trying to justify it by saying God said that it was okay. But I don't disagree with the point in saying that God allowed it to happen. I don't think God thought that when in war people would kill the children, for instance, or kill the women as well, or kill anybody. I don't think God would say that that was an acceptable thing. And the reason I say that is because of the law that He had. I will agree.
Man did dominate man to his injury.
Yeah, so I'll concede that point, but I won't concede, like when I read something like this again, when Isaiah 45:7 is exactly what I was saying. The darkness exists because light exists. God said, "Let there be light," and as soon as there was light, then all of a sudden we have a differentiation between what is light and what is dark. And in essence, dark didn't exist as a label until there was light. Sorry, my light went out. So the same thing can be said about evil. So God didn't sit down and go, I'm going to sinisterly plan evil things or the process of evil. It's that in His creation of good, then we're able to differentiate, and His being good, the absolute good, we can differentiate good and evil. Otherwise, anything goes, right? And so your abhorrence of
folks would say that God is insane.
God is insane.
Some folks would agree with that.
I would disagree with that. So we can disagree. Yeah, you can throw a Bible verse, but I think I've explained my position. I disagree. I think. How does your worldview as what do you call yourself, a maltheist?
Misotheist, yeah.
All right. How is that helping you in life?
Nah, it's just making my life more miserable. To tell you the truth.
It's making it miserable. Then why do you believe it?
Oh yeah. Because I'm trying to keep it real. This is who I am.
It's not keeping it real, brother. It's not keeping it real. Jesus is the way, truth, and light. And if you read the Bible,
He created me.
If you read the Bible in its entirety as a love story, as God's love letter for the world, that He intended this plan in the form of Jesus to be man, to die for your sins, and to give you eternal life through him and joy. There is joy in a Christian belief. And if your belief is not giving you joy, then it's not a good belief. And you would be better off not believing any of this stuff. You know, because
I wish I would, but I can't do it because I already, how do I erase my memory of all this?
Well, if it's not helping you, it's better for you to think that it's fictional.
Yeah, I tried that. It didn't work out.
Well, I hope, brother, that you'll change your mind about that. I hope that you'll read the Bible instead of trying to find stuff that promotes your feelings about it already. Be a little bit more open-minded about it in your reading. You know, because
I'm gonna say hello and bye in your chat so that you might my little small videos.
Sorry, I wasn't seeing if there was any comments in the chat to talk to reference, but I appreciate you calling. I gotta leave. I'm a little bit longer. My wife's gonna wait.
Take care of your business.
Yeah. So
you have a good day.
Yeah, you too. Thank you for the call. Hang in there. All right. There's a better life.
Thanks.
All right. See ya.
Okay. Ciao.
All right. You know, look, he's honest, and I'm not talking behind your back. I'm giving a commentary on it. I think you were honest, that you weren't like the other caller who was making fun of someone else and we were having a gag and having fun. But I didn't come to my belief, just to tell you real briefly, I didn't come to my belief. I believed in God because I think from a de facto place, the idea of a creator makes sense. And that's where you're probably coming from, which is the push-pull that you have, that you think from a logical standpoint, having a creator makes sense. Okay. But I came to Christian belief when I was near 37 years old, and it was kicking and screaming. I didn't want to. When I opened myself to it, when I opened myself to the Word, things started to be revealing to me, and my life as a result, it's not perfect, but it's more joyful in general. There's a more joyful life. And this is to anybody, that if you think that if your worldview is just destroying you, and let me tell you, put this in my own perspective, because I'm more liberal than I am conservative, and from a political standpoint, that didn't change. When you're 37 years old, and you're an attorney, a civil attorney, you're probably going to be very liberal about things, and I still mostly am. And so my worldview was so crazy at the start of this year, for obvious reasons, of who's in office in the United States, that I actually started having health issues from it. And the reason I was having health issues from it is because I was inundating myself with every bit of news, particularly like Rachel Maddow's and MSNBC stuff, not Fox News stuff, that was feeding me all the negative and all the craziness. And my health was not good. So what did I do? Cancel my cable. It's done. So for you, who I last talked to, if joy is totally escaped from your life, then the Bible should be away from your life. You know, that's what I would say. If in my opinion, you cannot read it with an open heart, and that you have specific beliefs about God that aren't going to change, then stay away from the Bible, because it's unhealthy for you. Until you decide one day, and I'll pray for that. Lord, I pray that this young man's heart is opened, and that the Word, he can see new revelation and see light that will illuminate from the darkness that he feels from the words that he reads, that he will see the light, and then that will lead him on a path to not self-righteousness, but righteousness through you, Jesus. In Jesus' name I pray. That's for you, brother. So, but until you can do that, the Bible's not good for you. Just like MSNBC and news was not good for me, so I got rid of it. I still watch it occasionally. You know, it's still on YouTube. So occasionally, and the clips on Facebook and stuff. But in the end, and I'm not putting my head in the sand, so I still pay attention to some news. It's just every day, and it's killing me, and it's just not. 4 years can't come soon enough. 3 more pretty soon. It just is what it is. So I'm sorry to the folks that were leaving comments in the YouTube area because I don't have the window up. But I appreciate you watching. There are 3 viewers still in here. And to the young man that called, dude, anytime you want to private message me or something, or you want to jump into something again, we can talk. But don't cherry pick verses in order to try and prove points you already believe. because whatever verses you're going to give me, you know I'm going to have an explanation for it. You're not going to change my mind, and I'm not going to change your mind. Who's going to change your mind is the guy upstairs, and that's the guy who changed my mind when I was hard-headed about everything, making fun of the virgin birth and making fun of all that stuff. But if you look at all the Judeo-Christian religions, the one that is most liberal to me, interestingly enough, is the Christianity, because it doesn't require you to be anything. You come as you are to the feet of Christ, and you can be redeemed. Real simple. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter anything. You go to a Christian church, ideally, I mean, my own church is very white, but you go to a Christian church, hopefully you're going to find a nice, like you go to the one church I was talking about before. They're huge. They're thousands of people. And you go there, you'll see Asians, you'll see blacks, Hispanics, whites, and all mixed together. You go into a temple, probably not as much. You go into a Muslim mosque, you might see it a little bit more, but not necessarily. And there aren't going to be a lot of white people in there, probably. So from a standpoint of what is most welcoming to everybody, believe it or not, notwithstanding political affiliations that we can argue, Christianity is the most liberal. And I appreciate that. In other words, if my wife, I'm Jewish by birth, if my wife wanted to become Jewish, she couldn't just say I'm Jewish. If my wife was like me, who was Jewish rather, I could simply say, I believe. I believe. I'm changing my mind regarding everything I believed before and everything that I was and my entire focus. And I'm changing it to God, repenting. That's what that means, changing your mind. And new creation, just like that. Anybody, you watching. So God bless you for watching. The 3 that are still in there, thank you for watching. And I hope we're going to have a nice dinner, and I'll drive safely. We'll do this again. Leave comments if you like this, and maybe I'll do it more often. Thanks for watching, and I'll chat with you later.